Hello and welcome to the Dungeon. I'm your host Rob, and today I'm with my friends Jaden and Troy. We're preparing to play some Dice-Born Heroes. Is that what it's called? Dice-Born Heroes. And we're going to talk a bit about Barbarians. Mostly because Jaden is playing in one of my current campaign. He's playing a Path of the Zealot Barbarian, and he's 17th level in that campaign. And then Troy already played a Path of the Berserker Barbarian in a previous one, which went all the way to 20. Yes. So we have two high-level barbarians here with lots of experience in the class. So I guess I'll just ask you guys, how do you like the Barbarian? What are your thoughts and impressions of it?
Barbarians are fun, but they're only fun when you create a fun character. Combat-wise, they're very straightforward. They hit. That's what they do. They hit. That's all that they do. When you make a really good character, and whatever, all he does is hit, that's fine. That's his job. He can hit, but you can make some really great games out of just some epic characters out of Barbarians, and you can get some of the most epic characters from Barbarians because one, you don't have to think a lot about anything else, but how your character is going to do and react to things other than attack.
Yeah,
you get to attack
because your action on your turn is pretty much already decided. Yeah, so you don't have to think of your turn before it comes up, like something like a sorcerer or a wizard.
Or a wizard, where you're like, I got to think ahead, like six points into the battle. Okay, well they're going to do this, they're going to do this, and this. Okay, this is how I'm going to react to those. Barbarian just attacks, and then he can do whatever after that.
Most of the thinking with a barbarian player is how I'm going to RP this in the most amazing way possible.
RP is the barbarians.
RP is how you have fun with a barbarian because they're probably the most boring class in the game.
Yeah, if you just had a guy who say somebody a character and they just did their job, they would be bored and all they would just attack. That's all they would do, and then they would sit and wait and then attack again. So that's why if you see most people who play Barbarians, they're always the funniest, the most ridiculous. They do the craziest things. That's because they have to, or they would just be bored.
See, it's interesting you say that because Lucian was a very enjoyable character when you played your Barbarian, and then Crag is one of my favorite characters in this campaign with your Barbarian. And even like when I played Borag, even though he was a champion fighter, it's kind of the same thing. You don't have a lot of other things to worry about.
Well, Craig, I think I invest more into because I'm so bored with him when it comes to combat. so I think I have time during combat to think about like how Craig would react to certain scenarios. And so I've really I've had 17 levels to get into the mindset of this barbarian.
Yeah.
Who I've spent 17 levels with the most boring, monotonous combat in the entirety.
Is it really worse than like an arcane archer or somebody though?
No, because with an arcane archer, like you have your arcane shots, you have your options.
You have more options than attack.
You have a bit of versatility with an arcane archer, where like if you need to, you can also switch to melee too, because you're still a fighter, right?
Yeah,
like your range specialization.
You can throw a javelin. I mean, come
on. But the difference between like an arcane archer and like a barbarian is an arcane archer, your damage is still gonna pretty much be on par regardless of what range you're fighting at. With something like a great weapon mastery barbarian, if you're throwing a javelin, you're nerfing about 50%.
Well, you can say the same thing with an arcane archer who can't use sharpshooter.
That's
right?
True too,
but you
still
have four
attacks
at high level. Like Mike has 3 right now. Yeah. He's got action surge.
Yeah, so see that's the thing with the fighters.
Even in hand-to-hand combat,
you also have action surge as a fighter, so that's potentially 8 attacks on one turn. Whereas a barbarian, you're always restricted to 2 attacks. You're always doing the same thing.
Unless you're Lucian.
Yeah, like you could do a wheel.
You do a wheel.
Or you're a Royal Master and get your bonus action.
Get your bonus action attack. Yeah, I mean there are other things you can,
Like that's why I like the Zealot, because the Zealot at least switches it up with one of their abilities, where they give their allies advantage.
That is a pretty great ability.
So if you're not, because it doesn't apply to you. So if you don't get your Great Weapon Mastery attack off on your turn, at the end of your turn, you still have your bonus action. You can be like, mean, give everybody advantage on their saving throws and attack rolls. And so that's
Yeah.
that's one thing that I like about the Zealot Barbarian is like they have that kind of team play utility once per long rest.
Yeah, it's only because they're zealots. And, you know,
They're crazy religious nutcases,
Oh,
which is why
yeah.
I love Craig so
berserkers
much.
don't care about anybody else, but making every, look bad by killing everything so fast. This is what they
I
do.
mean, I like the Zealot because they also get like the bonus damage die from their path tree,
Yeah.
which scales pretty well as they level, and you still get the bonus on a crit. So on a crit, a Greyhawk Master Barbarian is doing what, 5d12?
If you're using a great axe, yeah.
Yeah, and then a Zealot does 5d12 plus 2d6.
Yeah.
So they kind of rack up the damage pretty quickly that way. But again, it's just every turn I attack.
Path of Berserker though can get the reaction attack at higher level, which is kind of nice, and then you actually can do something on somebody else's turn, which is kind of interesting.
But feats also you kind of with some utility, I guess. You become a tank. Like Lucian was just a tank. Like by the end of it, he had like if you take his 10 from half damage and stuff like that, he was roughly around like almost 600 health.
Yeah.
Like, he was at the end of the day had
300. Yeah, 300 something hit points. You had tough, and you
put
had
tough on, and then
when we hit 20, you got the plus 4 to your strength and con.
So
So you had like 24 constitution
Yeah.
with a D12 hit point.
Yeah.
Hit dice. Yeah, like it's pretty insane.
And then there's the Zealot Barbarian, who at level 15 is pretty much impossible to kill.
Yeah, you just stay at 1 hit point.
Rage beyond death. So either
just
you
put you to sleep.
You make your save and you drop to 1 hit point, or you fail your save, you drop to 0 hit points. But because you're still raging, you don't actually die until your rage ends.
Unless someone puts you to sleep.
Unless somebody puts you to sleep, which is like a level 2 spell. Has the
Oh, 1
ability-
spell.
A level 1 spell has the ability to basically
Outright kill you.
outright kill a raging Zealot Barbarian. But nothing else.
Yeah.
Just sleep.
Just sleep.
Just sleep is the only thing that could.
So basically,
That could end
hypnotist there, and he's just done.
What
He's
about
down.
banishment or something? Because doesn't that put you in some sort of stasis?
No, banishment just sends you to a different realm. Your rage will still.
You're
Your
still
rage only
raging.
ends unless you're unconscious.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
So if you're banished, you're still conscious, and even then,
Raging in
if
a
you're
different
banished,
dimension.
if you're banished, you're in your own dimension, and you can still pop a healing potion. So you pop a healing potion while you're banished. Your rage ends. You still have hit points. You don't die.
Basically, just
Basically, sleep is one of the only ways to bring down a raging zealot, which is, I guess, cool. Unless
so it's
somebody-
good if say the DM doesn't know that, or you didn't look into it or something, and you never know.
But now our DM knows, so
But of course, the DM
rip
knows.
now,
Craig.
now
in
you'll
this
be
game.
fighting tons of things that all mysteriously
all
just happen to
mysteriously
have
don't
the sleep
sleep.
spell. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird how that happened.
I know it is weird.
Everyone just prepared it at the same time.
Yeah.
I think we should just make all these people sleep. Yeah, we should.
We don't want to kill them. We want them alive.
Alright, so for our barbarians, because like I said, you played a zealot,
I played a zealot
you
and I
played a
played
path of berserker.
I played a battle ranger briefly.
Did you? Okay, I was gonna say Mike played one as
Mike
well.
played one, but I played
Mike's played like 3.
Yeah,
So like level
they
1 to 5.
Yeah, and
So
most of
it's
them
the
died.
extent,
Because didn't
yeah.
he play? No, he's gonna be a cavalier in the Waterdeep campaign, but of course we all wiped and died at level 1.
And
And
then
then we-
switched to a battle ranger.
And then he switched to a battle ranger. Yeah, I had it the other way around. So what do you think of the battle ranger?
Battle ranger seems fun. Like you have more uses for your bonus action,
Yeah, because you make the fist attack.
which does some actually pretty decent damage. We found out because it applies your rage bonus damage as well
Yeah.
and doubles on a crit. So
Not
that's
too bad.
that's pretty good, decent too. So
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like pull on mastery, right, with the butt end, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's only D4.
it
Doesn't
still
matter,
adds
you
up.
know?
It's still
Yeah,
it's
it's still
it's your bonus action, which as a barbarian you're not using for much anyways, and it still adds your
Mhm.
your rage damage bonus, which is +4. So that's pretty decent.
And you're getting strength bonus, and, you know.
I've been debating playing, what was it, Storm Barbarian?
Yeah,
Mhm.
The Storm Herald.
The Storm Herald, yeah.
Storm Herald seems pretty
It
interesting.
basically seems like Thor. All it really is.
Oh,
It's
that's
like
perfect,
it's
actually.
like, right, you're just Thor.
Then you can just use them all.
He swings them all, and you just like kill them with lightning, and he calls storm stuff, which is kind of dope. So there, that alone gives you you have 10 times more utility than just a normal berserker and zealot. Like he's already ahead of. He's using magic. You're 10 times ahead of everybody in the barbarian skills. I hit you with sticks.
Another interesting one I thought of playing before I decided Craig would be a zealot was the Spirit Guardians, which seemed Ancestral Guardians. Ancestral Guardians, which seemed interesting too because it puts the barbarian in like a tanking role because they're
which like Troy was just saying, they are pretty good at it, actually.
Yeah,
they're pretty decent.
And so one of their first abilities they get as with Ancestral Guardian is the ability for enemies to have disadvantage if they're attacking anything other than you. And then it just stacks off that where if something else is attacked other than you, I think it attacks them instead and does bonus damage. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. I haven't looked much into it, but I was going to go that one with Craig until I found out Mike was going the way he was, and so.
Oh yeah, because he was playing a Storm Soul Sorcerer at the beginning of the campaign.
So we had enough kind of like frontline sort of damage utility. So just decided to go with the zealot because I wrote this backstory for him and it turned out to work in line with your story. And a barbarian is made or broken based on their story and the way you RP them. I feel.
If you suck at RP, don't be a barbarian.
I really think there's something to that idea though, where if you don't really have a lot of things to worry about on your turn, you end up role playing better characters because that definitely does seem to be a theme in a lot of games.
I will play my character quite well, and I have to do a lot of thinking when I'm playing. But I don't know. People need to be able to RP though. That's the thing. Like if you can't RP, there's really no point. Like you can still play, but just it's not as fun when you have some good. Yeah.
Well, I found the most fun I've had with Craig is because his stats are so oriented towards being this utterly destructive damage dealer. He suffers in the areas where I want him to excel, such as conversation. So Craig has a -1 to most of his conversational skills.
You know, we have a bard.
Yeah.
Who has 22 charisma right now.
But Craig wants to be self-sufficient.
Exactly.
And so Craig does a lot of the talking, and Craig isn't good at a lot of the talking.
Not because we want him to. We just,
but because Craig does.
And even with all your skills set to being a devastating damage dealer, you've done, I think, more damage to your own teammates.
Craig has an uncanny knack to roll 2 1s with advantage,
which is insane.
Which as a table rule means that you attack the closest ally because your weapon just goes flying out of your hand or you miss your swing. And so Craig, I think, has attacked his allies 4 times now.
Oh no, I think it was like twice in 1 week.
Yeah, it was twice in a week.
You're up into like you're almost in double digits.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Like I can't
so
believe
Craig,
I can't believe it because like I played all the way to 20 and I never rolled a single double 1.
And that in and of itself leads to a bunch of fantastic RP because.
Right.
Oops.
Not crap.
I'm sorry.
I think one of my favorite things from Crag was when you went back to your village there and you like were living through all the lives of your ancestors and learning like the background of your tribe and stuff. And the way it worked is basically everybody else in the party had to try to protect Crag while he was on this like dream vision quest. Yeah. So they're all fighting all this stuff while he's incapacitated. And then as the visions went on, there's like this mounting psychic pressure. So
I forgot about this.
After each wave, basically I just started, he had to make a saving throw, wisdom saving throw. And if he failed, he took like 2 dice 6. But then the next time it was 3 dice 6. And each time the difficulty went up by 1.
Craig has never, to this day, made a successful wisdom save. I think he has made it twice.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say it's probably 1 or 2.
He has made 2 successful wisdom saves in all of his 17 levels.
I just remember like the next week at work, I was getting ready for the game and I'm like driving around my forklift and I was thinking about like, okay, what happened last week and what's going to happen this week. And I just remembered Craig failing 7 consecutive wisdom saving throws. And it was actually 8 because you had inspiration and re-rolled one of them and failed that as well.
I believe the re-roll was lower than the
original. You rolled a 3 and then re-rolled a 2.
And then re-rolled a 2 because wisdom saves seem to hate Craig.
And the funny thing is, like, in my mind when I was setting up that encounter, like, I knew that the difficulty was going to be, it was going to mount up with each successive wave, but the damage was only going to go up when he failed. So I was like, okay, wisdom saves aren't his thing, but we're starting with like a DC 11 or 12 or whatever it was. Like, he'll make a couple, and then by the end he'll take, like, you know, some damage, right? But he ended up failing every single one. So it started at 2, and then 3 more, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, all just mounting atop each other. And like by the end, I was just like, oh, I hope he doesn't die from this.
No, the thing with Craig is Craig has a lot of hit points.
Yeah, he did a lot of hit points.
He can soak a lot of damage. By the end of that, he had pretty much nothing. I think I was sitting at around 20 hit points.
Yeah.
From like 200.
Yeah.
So it was pretty significant, and Craig doesn't like to make saving throws. So anytime at the table, there's make a wisdom saving throw, and it's like.
But that's another thing that stuns me is the number of Constitution saving throws.
Yeah, Craig has
failed.
Craig has a +9 to his Constitution, so most of the time I need an 11 or higher to like actually succeed. And the amount of times I fail a Constitution saving throw is staggering.
Like even stuff that's like, okay, it's only a DC 12, and you're like, oh, that's okay. I can only fail if I roll.
If I roll a 1 or 2, I can fail. Well, that's a 2. Yeah.
Oh, that's the 1. I'll roll again. Oh, look, I roll another 1.
So the joy of Craig,
6 ones
like, as a barbarian, is the fact that he's really notoriously bad at making saving throws, and so we play off that.
He's just notoriously bad at everything.
Craig tries to do many things. He has an ebony.
At hitting things really hard.
He has an ebony fly, so he uses that when he can. And so many encounters have gone just not the way I wanted them to go.
Yeah.
Because Craig thinks he's better than he is, and should stop trying things like
leaping off your ebony fly.
Yeah, into like this like
in a melee. And then just not sticking the landing ever.
Failing a dex saving throw and landing flat on my face and ending up with some ground balls on my face.
And then being prone to all the attacks as well. Good times.
So that's where the joy of Craig comes in. Is like I enjoy role playing with Craig and doing ridiculous things because as a barbarian, he's incredibly boring to play during combat. and that's the location where you want a barbarian most is in combat because that's where they excel. But unfortunately, it's also where like the barbarian is probably the weakest when it comes to gameplay enjoyment.
Yeah, they're very they're very strong mechanically, but
it's boring.
Yeah,
they're very.
See, I find it interesting because you both have that opinion. If it was just one person, it's like, oh, I didn't really like playing by barbarian. I thought it was boring.
That's because
but you both do.
It's because that's why I always did crazy things. Like when we were playing with George there, we're at that part where there's like a lava thing or a wall or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's a thing of lava. We had to usually jump across. We jump across to go fight a beholder, and everybody's like, "Oh, we're gonna skirt around," and I like literally just leap this thing, like a wicked roll. I'm like, "Yeah," I landed on the other side, and then I just for the rest of the night just basically called them all girls for not being manly enough to make it across the pit.
There's usually the two extremes when it comes to role playing barbarian. There's the barbarians like Lucian who are pretty much good at anything they set out to do. And then there's the barbarians like Craig, which you play off of when you RP, who want to do more than just bash things in the skull with their giant axe, who aren't really good at doing more than bashing things in the skull.
See, that's one thing I enjoy about Craig, though, is that he's not like the typical stupid barbarian. It's just that
Craig has
he functions like one who is.
Craig has a 10 intelligence, so he has very average intelligence. His lowest status is charisma, so he's ugly as shit, but he's like average intelligence, and he's slightly above average like in wisdom, because he has a 12 wisdom. So he shouldn't
Not that you'd know it from
Not that you know it, but the way Craig acts is he kind of acts in a way that somebody with 12 wisdom would act. Like he doesn't do things that he knows like would endanger everyone. Like Craig enters most situations with the mindset like
What?
we can if we get into this we can walk out of it. If we get into this, Craig can walk out of this.
He just goes into it. I'm going to attack that. I don't care what we're doing. I don't care how this person's life or how much life they have left. We're attacking this thing. I see it burn us again.
When you look at Craig's stat sheet, though, that's how he is oriented.
That's not his stat sheet. That's you playing him like that, which is fine,
Craig
which is great.
He has a 22 strength, so most of the time he's gonna play to his strong suit. So he's gonna bash things before he thinks about things, and so that's what happens most of the time. Is his muscles take over.
Last campaign I had the lowest intelligence of everybody in the room, and yet I'm still the smartest person. I did all the smartest things. It's like my character's dumb, but yet somehow this guy over here who has 20 intelligence is doing the dumbest things possible.
Intelligence and wisdom are two different things, though.
That's true.
An intelligent person might not always be the wisest person, and might not always do the wisest thing.
Yeah.
But in Craig's mind, what he's doing is within his capabilities to accomplish, basically. Though not always successfully.
No. Alright, so what things do you guys think barbarians do very well, besides just smash stuff with weapons, of course?
There's other things they do well.
They do other things than smash stuff? Oh my god. Tell me which barbarian this is.
They make excellent
tanks. They're good tanks.
They make excellent tanks. They make excellent mage killers too. Because if a mage is sitting at the back of the room, your barbarian is going to be able to soak enough of the opportunity attacks to get to that mage that it makes the mage a non-issue. Because like you do have your archers, you have your other mages who can counterspell and do that, but any extra damage you're piling onto a mage is damage that they have to roll for concentration
save.
And it's incredibly hard to roll for a concentration save when you're doing 54 damage to them.
Yeah.
So that's where a barbarian is really handy, because a barbarian is going to be able to wade into a room with 4 or 5 guys, go straight to the back of that room. And
you got a lot of extra movement speed.
And start, because you have 10 extra movement speed if you're not wearing heavy.
You're
rolling
initiative with
advantage,
yeah.
So you're gonna most of the time act earlier. Like Craig, on average, acts at around a 20 initiative, so we'll act usually early, if not middle of the pack. So you as a barbarian, you have the initiative to be able to get to the back of an enemy party and kind of break up the enemies in a way that is beneficial to your party.
Lucian to be the first one. One, because I made him. It's not very often you make a wood elf, a barbarian, right? But he has that extra movement speed already.
Like you have the
and
5
then you get
extra.
10 extra on top of that.
So you're at 45.
Then I made him very dexterous because I have made him with 2 weapons, right? So he was able to do that. So now his initiative is higher. So he was going. I think he had like a plus 11 or something.
Yeah, he had alert. He had a pretty high dex, like you said. And then you were rolling with advantage.
And that's rolling with advantage. So he was generally the first one to go all the time. And then just...
And, like, in that party, that's where I had Borak, the champion fighter, and Alex was playing a paladin. And really, that was basically the party for the most part. Like, we also had the war cleric there for a while. But, I mean, the entire party were all melee guys, right? So when we were fighting casters, it was a huge problem for us.
Very huge problem.
We had no counter spells.
So we just had to either take it
and then hope the war player could heal it.
Yeah, right.
Except you would usually just melee instead of heals. I'm almost dead over here.
Okay.
Swing at it with my sword.
And you're like, dude, you're the guy who heals. This is why I've always said clerics suck. They're the worst.
Anything a cleric can do, another class can pretty much do better. But that's a discussion.
Yeah, except for pure healing. But even then, I think a bard's almost as good if you take some
bards get power word heal.
Yeah, and they can use magical secrets to pick up a lot of the good healing spells if they want. You know, and then you've also got Song of Rest for out of combat. You know, yeah, bards are pretty good at doing a lot
I
of
think
random
pirates
stuff.
are worse than clerics, but anyway.
Yeah,
I think they're the worst.
After having played a bard for a couple levels.
Anyways, but yeah, no, I like them. Don't get me wrong. Like, I loved playing Barbarian. Though, like I said, sometimes like combat was low, like waiting my turn, so I just start doing things and saying stuff to like other characters, just to wait for my turn to come in, and just be more ridiculous as possible, and then come in and just murder something and then laugh it off like you guys are weaklings and. You know, like you needed my help and blah 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 and stuff like that. So I just that's how I'd play off the characters. And then he would drink all the time, but he would never get drunk. He would just always drink because anytime they're like, well, make a constitution, I'd always pass. So it's like I never got drunk.
It's true. He actually passed his Constitution saving throws. I remember that distinctly.
Craig passes most of them.
Yeah, which is fine, right? But I just made it that much more fun. And it just And then like in the middle of combat, start like talking to like the paladin or whatever, and talking, like asking him to have a drink with him right then and there. Like these are insignificant things we're fighting. Let's just drink it up, right? And you'd be like, you're just freaking out, like we need to fight these guys, and I'm like, well, I could survive.
Craig likes to take trophies from the things that he kills.
Yeah,
he sure does.
Alright, so what feats do you guys generally tend to favor?
For Barbarian?
For Barbarian.
Great weapon mastery.
I
took Great Weapon Mastery and haven't looked back because Great Weapon Mastery applies pretty much half of Craig's total damage right now.
It is pretty good with Reckless Attack.
It's pretty significant with Reckless Attack because that's...
You can overcome the penalty and just get the +10 to damage.
Yeah. And right now, he's sitting at a +15 with a +3 weapon, so he still has a +10 to hit. So he's doing a pretty significant amount of damage and rarely misses, I want to say, but.
Well, I took the one feat that it doesn't matter what class you play, you should take. Period, and that's alert. Everybody should have
one of the best general feats in the game.
Literally is one, right? Like no hands down, it's it is like the best. So you take alert, and then after that, like I said, if you're depending on how you want to play. You took Great Weapon Mastery. I didn't take Great Weapon Mastery.
No, you went dual wielding.
I went dual wielding,
which was also a pretty interesting choice because then you've always got the bonus action attack, and it's going to benefit from your rage as well, from the rage bonus damage. Like I remember thinking, I was like, I don't know about dual wielding because then it interferes with your bonus action. And then when I saw it in practice, I was like, nope, I was wrong. Lucian's just a Cuisinart of death.
Yeah, no, it's
just a murder machine.
Like I said, you're not gonna.
You don't hit as hard, but you hit more often.
You get the great axes up there, like 12, they're 12s, stuff like that. You're gonna get more out of it, right? But I just found I found my niche there, and I took it. And I was like, all right, well, you can dual 2 different swords, and you get a 3rd bonus attack. It might not do as much damage as
and
the
then
rest.
you got your retaliation, like I said, higher levels,
then you got
right?
retaliation. So then you're almost doing 4.
And you could frenzy if you really wanted to. But does frenzy use a bonus action attack, or is frenzy frenzy's just an extra attack?
Frenzy's just an extra attack. I just never used it ever.
Because exhaustion is a pain.
Because exhaustion is a pain in the ass. There's no point in putting that much negative to you for 1 extra attack. To be honest, it's I said for people who do, and I'm hey great, but for me I just said no, I don't. I never used it not once in the entire 1 to 20. I never used it once.
I think it'd have use on like different, like if you know this is gonna be the last fight, like you're at the end of this dungeon, you're fighting like the archmage, and you're like, okay, we're gonna beat this guy, and then we got a week of just browsing around town.
Go to town.
Then it's fine in that situation. But you always see these people on the internet. They're like, oh, but if you frenzy once a day, and then every now and then you have to frenzy for another big fight, then eventually you'll die of exhaustion. It's like, no, because nobody ever does that.
Why would you? But I don't know. I took tough.
Tough,
which is good, especially if you decide to start doing more tanking than you would normally, right? If you decide I'm going to be a tank barbarian. Tough
well, and those extra hit points are getting double mileage on barbarian when you're raging, so it's just pretty good feat there.
Yeah, so like whatever your base health is, it's doubled.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like no,
unless you're taking like psychic damage.
Yeah, like if you're taking magic, whatever, but like magic isn't that thing entirely, but just straight attacks.
Mm-hmm.
You
on average, you have about 35% more health.
Maybe even more. I think.
Maybe even more because like it's not, you don't have like 100% bonus health because you're still,
you stay up taking necrotic off.
Yeah.
Things
So,
that do
yeah, you
necrotic
have
or
about-
elemental from stuff that does that.
about 50 to 60, we'll say, percent bonus health
Which
as
is
a barbarian, which is
more
significant. Which is significant when by
Yeah.
level 20 you're sitting at about 250 hit points.
Yeah.
So on average, that's about 400 hit points total
Yeah.
that you have to soak. Whereas
Effectively. Yeah.
most of your fighters are going to only have about 200 hit points. That's why I say like
Yeah.
a, bar-
227.
a barbarian is excellent for getting into the back line because
The barbarian will have worse armor usually,
it's true.
he'll get hit
and
more
will get
often
hit more
He'll
often.
get hit
because
more
of
often.
especially if your reckless attack.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think the only time I ever didn't recklessly attack was when I had disadvantage and I had to attack and I had to roll normally. Other than that,
Yeah.
I never not recklessly attacked, and I didn't
Yeah.
care who hit me at that point. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who hits you because you're just like, just do it. I'm done. Just start murdering everybody, right? So,
I
reckless attack's amazing.
don't really see a reason not to recklessly attack, especially if you have that many hit points.
Yeah,
Like if you're getting low on hit points and you're not like a zealot barbarian who can essentially just live on during your rage, there'd be a point when you wouldn't want the enemy to have advantage on you. But for the most part, recklessly attacking is what you're going to want to do because then you're baiting out those crits as well, and a barbarian crit is pretty devastating.
Yeah.
yeah, because
you
you
critical.
criticals.
Yeah, they hit
I was
pretty hard.
rolling a truck of dice at the end there.
Yeah.
Because by the end you have an extra three damage dice with all of your dual criticals, so you're rolling 5 dice, and with a great axe that's 5d12.
What if you were a half orc? You'd have
60.
the half orc ratio.
Yeah, which is 6d12, and then a zealot gets an extra d6, like I said earlier, so it's 5d12 plus 2d6, which is basically 6d12. Yeah.
No, so what about other good feats? We got Great Weapon Master. We got Tough.
I could make
Alert. Sorry, I almost missed Alert.
I would make an argument for Sentinel as well on Barbarian, because you're not using a reaction for a lot either.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Depending on which way you roll. I use mine all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
It's true. Yeah, because Berserkers, you're going to have Retaliate, so you're going to have your reaction that way. But something like a Zealot, you have, besides opportunity attacks, literally no uses for your reaction. So something like Sentinel
would be good.
Would be good. Use for your reaction that isn't an opportunity attack. So
Just add even more damage.
Barbarians, like unlike fighters, I found Barbarians aren't really like a feat dependent class.
Yeah, they're just they're like you said, they're very strong in just their mechanics. Like their attack mechanics is so good. Like it's such a good class for that. Because you look at other classes, there's parts that are like really good and really weak.
Yeah.
They're just all around for that. They're really well.
If you were to introduce somebody to D&D and it's their first time playing and they don't know what they're doing and they don't want to like be a burden to their party because they don't know like
give them a
what's going on, you tell them to play a barbarian because it's the most foundationally solid class. It's one of the easiest classes to play. It's one of the most structurally sound classes that pretty much you can't go wrong with.
For playing. For RP, he's gonna suck.
He's gonna suck.
Barbarian's gonna be weak in the RP department, and that's fine because then you get him just used to the game, and then you get him
introduced to the game, and then you kind of branch off from there and see what other classes.
Then he can come back after he's learned a bit.
Yeah,
like,
I see people online make the same argument about the champion and fighter as well, but I think fighters are a lot more customizable because you got the
because you have 1 or 2 extra ASIs.
Yeah,
so that's
two
where
extras.
That's where the fighter and the barbarian kind of set themselves apart. Like a fighter is a very feat dependent class, whereas a barbarian you can pretty much play the entire class without taking 1 feat and still be pretty solid. Like a fighter, there's always an area that a fighter kind of lax, where they can
Yeah.
pick up a feat and
to
kind of
pick
do that.
that piece up.
Whereas with the Barbarian, you kind of have an all around solid character even without any feats. And so that's where the divide kind of comes in.
I kind of feel like Barbarian, you're almost kind of committed though to using all your ASIs just for your stats. Because I mean, especially if your campaign's going to go all the way to 20, it just seems like a shame to get +4 strength and +4 con and not
already
above the 20 cap.
Like
limits,
right
you
now,
know?
Craig has used a book of strength, so his strength cap right now is 22 at level which he's sitting at.
Yeah.
At level 20, his strength cap will be 26, and he'll reach that cap, which is the same strength as a giant, I believe,
fire giant.
as a fire giant, and so that's
Technically
pretty
stronger. Fire giant's 25.
Yeah, so that's a pretty significant strength bonus, and then on top of that, they get +4 Constitution. Craig is sitting at an 16 Constitution right now, so when he gets to 20, he will have 22 Constitution because I'm going to up his Constitution by 2 more. So that's an extra 40 hit points on top of the hit points he already has. And then I'm going to be getting tough as well with his last 2 ASIs. Or with his last ASI, I'm getting tough. And then, I think he only has 1 more.
Yeah, you got 1.
Yeah, no, he only has 1 ASI left, so I'm just taking his con up. So I'm not taking tough on Craig, that's right.
That's right. Like, by the end, Lucian had 29 strength.
Yeah,
and
he had a belt of
like
storm giant strength. Yeah.
On top of then getting the freaking +4, he had 24 con. He was just a
beast. Yeah.
Just a beast. It was ridiculous.
Would you ever consider non-combat feats on a barbarian?
Like I said, we don't need any feats at one point, so you don't really need.
Yeah.
So if you were gonna take it, it would just be like.
And I kind of feel like.
I feel like you'd be handicapping yourself at that point.
Yeah,
because then you're
I
not
really
using...
want the strength and the con on a barbarian because, like I said, it just seems like barbarians have one of the best capstones in the game, honestly.
Pretty much, because that's 4 ASIs essentially.
Yeah.
You're getting
And it raises you above the
free.
cap.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
And like it just.
Like stuff that takes you above 20 is pretty rare. You got the stat books, you got a few other things like I said, like belt of giant strength and stuff. But it's
like
it's not
currently
common.
you're what? Your armor class is 20.
My armor class is 20 right now with +3 half plate.
Right. And he's wearing half plate as a barbarian. Lucian, he didn't wear armor. Period.
Yeah,
he at the end of it, he was sitting at 26 armor class.
Yeah, you had
just from your dex bonus alone.
well,
just
and he had,
dex bonus,
rings.
and I had
Dex
a couple
plus
rings.
unarmored defense,
Yeah,
which is based off Constitution as well. So
it cranks it way up, right?
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
And so I was like, 26. I was like, 26.
Yeah,
And I'm not even wearing armor. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, even recklessly attacking stuff still misused somewhat often.
Yeah.
You know, I mean.
Did they hit high? They get like 20s, some of them, like or the 18 to like 20 to start hitting you.
Yeah, even with advantage, stuff was missing quite a bit, so that was pretty insane.
yeah.
So
Any races you guys prefer? Kind of wrap things up.
I'm playing a Dragonborn.
I think this is a pretty decent.
I have
choice.
mixed feelings about a Dragonborn Barbarian. Like
Really?
as much as I like the idea of a Dragonborn Barbarian, one of your Dragonborn racials completely doesn't apply at all to Barbarian. You have +2 strength and you have +1 charisma. Charisma does nothing for a Barbarian unless you want to invest it into intimidation, which I feel is a mixed. Like, of course, there's always like the bog standard half-orc Barbarian because you're getting your bonus brutal critical. You have +2 to strength, +1 to con, +1 to con.
Yep.
So that's kind of like your standard go-to Barbarian, but I find
And like I said, you've got the Savage critical built in. You've also got the, if you go down to less than 1 hit point, you can choose to stay at 1, which I kind of find redundant
decent,
on a Barbarian because
it is, but
level
you get it
13,
you get it right at level 1 with a half orc,
That's
which
true,
is
which kind of
nice.
buys out until you get it. At 13
you know. So.
I personally, I think honestly, it doesn't matter.
I
Personally, I think any class you can be anything, any class. I don't care. Like so most classes have strengths, different things, but personally, it depends.
Unless you're one of those players who like is dead set on like min-maxing a character, I find like your race shouldn't determine
what
your class. Your class shouldn't determine what race your character is. I feel like you should be able to have fun with whatever race of character you want. And that's why I don't like the idea of half-orc barbarians, because I just find half-orcs boring. Like, you can do, like...
I had a lot of fun with Borat.
I mean, yeah, okay.
I know what you're saying. But
yeah,
that also depends on the player.
True.
Like you can make any race, any class, anything amazing
Originally,
the player.
Originally, I wanted Craig to be a Minotaur, but we were like, no, we can't have that. So.
Well, you kind of walk around actual places.
That's
people don't normally just look at Minotaurs like, oh, it's just a Minotaur. No worries, no big deal. Usually they're stabbing people or hitting them with axes.
One day. But yeah,
not to say that we can't have a game where we're all like a different kind of like
a complete non-human
party, right? And then be in the
unfortunately, that ends up being most parties these days. I find.
Yeah.
But I wish there was more humans. Actually, I really like humans.
I found that Craig's backstory works the best with him being a Dragonborn. Like that's.
No, well, yeah.
That's one of the things that like when I was making the character and deciding on like how I wanted his backstory to be, a Dragonborn just seemed like the most, like in my head, the most reasonable thing because of how like I wanted the character to be and what I wanted his beliefs to be, and like my choice of race was entirely based on my backstory for the character and how I wanted to roleplay the character. If I wanted to make like a min-max barbarian, I totally would have gone half-orc, but I didn't want to, so I kind of just wanted to play this Dragonborn barbarian, and it's kind of worked out really well because like I don't suffer the effects of the charisma as much as it'll matter. Like he has a 9 charisma, so it's not like that huge of a deal. Like you don't need charisma.
The fire breath's been handy on occasion.
It's true. Well, like if you
it's not a game changer.
If you take one of the Xanthar feats, you get the fear breath for Dragonborn, and that is based off charisma, I believe. No, I don't think it is.
Maybe who knows?
But
yeah, and same like for me, I wanted to play Barbarian, and I was deciding what I was going to make the class, and I was thinking about it, and I thought it would be kind of fun if I made my Barbarian a Wood Elf, only because I'd make him my previous character from another game, his son, and he's like literally the opposite of my previous character. My previous character was like, amazing and everything. The suave,
charismatic.
He slept with anything. Didn't matter, right? But he could get anything. That's
and the joy of Lucian was that he wanted to be so much like his dad, but his charisma was what, an 8?
8.
Yeah, his charisma was 8. So it was opposite, like complete opposite. Like Theron had like a 20.
Theron was
18 or 20 for his like charisma. And he was just killing it all the time with his charisma. But so that was like, I would like to see that opposite because he comes from him. And he's like this, like he's like he's hero, and he's done all these things, and he's like this such a woman, and his mom's like like ridiculous hot, right? So, and then there's him. He's just this angry, crazily built wood elf who's who's kind of not very attractive, and can't get women if he wanted to because he has. I think it's like he had basic intelligence and then just poor charisma, right? So he was just bad at socialing parts, just other than like yelling and fighting. Basically, is what he did. He drank, he fought, and he tried to get women. and I thought it'd be fun to play the complete opposite of character I just played. So that's why I made him like that, and that's how I played him.
But yeah, your class choice should definitely not impact the race of character you want to make. At the end of the day,
I agree too.
Play D&D however you want to play. Make whatever character you want to play.
However you want to combo it up.
Because D&D is a game that you should play to have fun. And so always play a character you want to you have fun with, and make the game fun for yourself, whatever way that's gotta be. Be it with a crazy amount of RP that your character isn't suited for but still attempts every game, or being successful at everything that your character does because you've built your character in that way. Just play whatever character you want to play and have fun with it and just roll with it, because that's that's where all of the joy of
Yes.
tabletop RPGs comes from. Is from that
The interaction.
the interaction between players and playing off each other and playing off each other's classes.
The DM and just all
Just
that stuff. That's
always play it to have fun.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what it should go. Should come down to.
All right.
Agreed.
Well, excellent. I think we'll just end it on that note.
Sweet. It's great. Good video.
All right. Thanks a lot,
Chat,
guys.
boys. No worries.
So
Anytime.
hopefully that gives people some insight into Barbarian. We didn't really cover any mechanics or anything. It was just more just sit around and talk about
there's
the
one
class.
mechanic to a barbarian and it's attack.
And it's called reckless.
It's
attack.
called reckless attack. That's it.
That's
That's
all
the
you
only
need to know.
mechanic you need to know about a barbarian. That's it.
All right. Excellent.